They say talent rises, but what happens when it gets buried by politics? Right now, in Cleveland, there's a quarterback sitting on the bench who's outplaying expectations, outclassing veterans, and outshining the guy in front of him, and still can't get a shot. His name? Shedeur Sanders, 5th-round pick. First-round swagger, and whether the Browns like it or not, his moment might already be here. Because when fans, media, and even teammates start asking the same question, why isn't he starting? You know something's coming, and it's coming fast. You won't find his name plastered across ESPN's top headlines. You won't catch his throws lighting up mainstream highlight reels, not yet. But behind the scenes, in the trenches of preseason reps and second-string lineups, Shedeur Sanders is quietly putting on a clinic. Not with flash, with fundamentals. Not with hype, with substance. While most rookie quarterbacks are trying to survive training camp, Shedeur is standing out for all the right reasons. Not because he's being fed starter reps, but because he's dominating without them. He's out on the field with third-string receivers, backup linemen, and guys fighting to keep a job and still moving the ball like he's been in the league for years. This isn't accidental. It's not beginner's luck. It's refined execution from a player who understands the moment and knows exactly how to seize it. Watch the film. You'll see the traits veterans spend years trying to develop: perfect timing, anticipation, and a calm, surgical approach under pressure. His eyes are alive, pre-snap, dissecting defenses in real time. He's going through progressions with NFL speed. Not panicking, not forcing throws, just playing sharp, organized football. Analysts call it poise beyond his years. Coaches call it rare. The best part? He's doing it without a system designed around him. He's not getting special packages, motion-heavy playbooks, or tailor-made setups to inflate his numbers. He's working within vanilla preseason schemes and still managing to flash brilliance on nearly every drive he touches. There was one drive in particular, no starters on the field, just fringe talent trying to survive, where Shedeur read a disguised blitz before the snap, shifted his protection with a hand signal, and fired a dart to the sideline on a timing route the moment his receiver broke. If a first-round quarterback put that on tape, it'd be all over social media. But with Shedeur, it barely made local news. And that's the story. He's doing everything right with little fanfare, and that's exactly what makes it so dangerous. Because under the radar, Shedeur isn't just developing, he's outperforming. He's not just checking boxes, he's raising the standard. No, he hasn't been named the starter. Not yet. But everyone around him knows what they're seeing. And, more importantly, so does he. That's where things get complicated, because when a player this composed, this polished, and this consistent starts shining in the shadows, coaches face a tough question. How long can you wait before everyone demands to see what he can do? For real? And the noise is already starting. Because talent like this doesn't stay hidden for long, especially not when tapes don't lie, and Shedeur Sanders keeps making it impossible to look away. But as we're about to see, not everyone's on board, starting with the head coach. At a glance, Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski isn't doing anything wrong. He's taking the standard approach: protect the rookie, ease him in, give him time to develop. It's classic NFL coaching: cautious, calculated, and focused on the long game. But here's the problem: Shedeur Sanders is blowing up that timeline. When Stefanski was asked directly about Shedeur's potential path to being the starter, fans expected something bold, maybe even a glimmer of immediate possibility. But instead, what they got was a wall of hesitation. Talk about earning reps, developing patience, and letting the process play out. No commitment, no urgency, no signal that Cleveland's most electric preseason talent would be splitting first-team snaps anytime soon. It wasn't a no. But it definitely wasn't a yes. And in a league where momentum means everything, that kind of answer felt like a speed bump at the worst possible time. The response sent shockwaves across NFL circles, not because it was controversial on its own, but because it clashed so hard with what everyone else was watching unfold in real time. Fans saw Shedeur dropping dimes with guys who might be cut next week. Analysts were calling out his mechanics and calm under pressure. Even opposing scouts were buzzing. But from the head coach? Just, we'll see. And that's when the friction started. From the outside, it looked like a head coach following his system, but from within the fan base and media, it started to feel like something else: deliberate hesitation. Not because Shedeur isn't ready, but because the Browns weren't. Not ready to question the depth chart. Not ready to disrupt the veteran pecking order. And maybe not ready to admit that a fifth rounder might be outplaying the guy they thought was the guy. That's why fans weren't satisfied with Stefanski's standard response. They weren't asking for Shedeur to be crowned, they just wanted to know why the most impressive quarterback in camp wasn't getting more chances. Why the guy showing real upside in real game situations was still parked behind players who frankly haven't been all that exciting. And if the answer was truly just development time, why did it feel like Shedeur had already done more than enough to earn a deeper look? The public started wondering, is this about performance or politics? Is Shedeur being held back because of how he entered the league, the round, the expectations, the rookie label instead of what he's proving down to down? The more you look at it, the more it feels like a classic NFL disconnect, a player arriving ahead of schedule, and a system that isn't equipped to recalibrate in real time. Stefanski, to his credit, is trying to do this by the book. He wants to protect Shedeur from the weight of early expectations, keep his development clean, and avoid throwing him into fire too soon. It's not reckless, it's not wrong, but it might already be outdated because Shedeur isn't asking for the spotlight. He's earning it. And that quiet tension between what the coach is saying and what the field is screaming is about to explode, because media voices are circling fast. And next up, one of the loudest in sports is about to light the fire. If there's one thing that gets Stephen A. Smith fired up like a playoff game in overtime, it's a young, talented athlete being held back for all the wrong reasons. So when Kevin Stefanski hit the podium and played the safe card, talking development, timing, and earning reps, you could practically hear the thunderclouds forming over ESPN headquarters. Stephen A. did not hold back. On national TV, he flipped the conversation from football strategy to flat-out injustice, framing Stefanski's response as a coaching crime. This young man has done everything you could possibly ask him to do, and you mean to tell me he can't even sniff first-team reps? You're watching this preseason, and your answer is, let's wait? With all due respect, Kevin Stefanski, that is nonsense. He said what most fans had been screaming at their TVs for weeks only now. It came with a megaphone, millions watching, every word landing like a punch to the Browns' cautious narrative. But Stephen A. wasn't alone. Over on NFL Live, Dan Orlovsky backed it up not with fire, but with precision. If Stephen A. brought the emotion, Orlovsky brought receipts. He broke down the tape footwork, pocket management, reads, decisions. And his conclusion? This isn't just about raw athleticism. It's about trust. Shedeur's operating like he's in year 2, not month 2. He's extending plays without panic. He's making layered throws. He's throwing to fringe roster guys and still moving the chains. Put him in with the ones, and this offense changes immediately. That's not hyperbole. That's a respected former NFL quarterback telling it straight. Shedeur isn't just holding his own, he's elevating everything around him. It was Orlovsky who delivered one of the most cutting lines in the entire conversation. You think that won't translate when you give him real weapons? Come on. Even Adam Schefter, usually measured and non-confrontational, chimed in with something more than just inside intel. He didn't break news, he echoed what everyone already felt. There's real buzz around Shedeur Sanders. You can feel it in the building. You can see it around the league. That kind of energy doesn't just happen unless something's really brewing. Think about that. The 3 biggest voices in football media, emotional, analytical, and insider, all lining up to say the same thing. This kid is ready. So what's the holdup? Once the media machine gets behind a player, the pressure meter blows past critical. Every rep becomes a conversation. Every quote from the coaching staff becomes a headline. Every throw Sanders makes turns into a potential debate on live TV. And it's not just coming from the desk. It's leaking into the locker room, around the league, on social media. From analysts to former players to fans in the comments, everyone sees it. This is no ordinary rookie. And that's exactly why this is no longer just about preseason football. It's about perception, pressure, and a front office that's now on the clock. The question isn't simply, is Shedeur Sanders good enough? It's shifted to something far more dangerous for NFL coaches trying to hold the reins. What are you waiting for? And as every headline, tweet, and segment piles on, that waiting gets harder to justify by the day. For all the hype Shedeur Sanders is earning now, it's impossible to ignore how his NFL journey started and how wildly off the league might have been. 5th round. That's where Shedeur was drafted the 5th round, day 3, behind quarterbacks with less production, less poise, and in some cases, less tape against actual elite college defenses. To some, it looked like a calculated risk. To others, especially those who watched his rise at Jackson State in Colorado, it felt personal, like the league just couldn't see past the name on the jersey or the conference he played in. And now, that perceived disrespect is turning into rocket fuel. Because every snap Shedeur takes in preseason feels like a rebuttal. Every read, every throw, every sustained drive is a message clear and loud. You were wrong about me. But this isn't just about ego, this is about opportunity. 5th-round picks in the NFL live on a different timeline. They're not handed systems, they're not given starting reps, they're not prioritized for development. The reality? They have to be perfect to even be seen as average. And Sanders? He's not just aiming for average, he's crashing the door down with veteran-level efficiency. But that's the politics of football. When you're a late-round pick, the leash is shorter and the stakes are higher. One mistake becomes an indictment. One bad quarter validates every GM who passed on you. And, meanwhile, higher picks get runway after runway, excuse after excuse. That's the harsh truth. Shedeur is trying to outrun, and right now, he is. Even media figures like Adam Schefter have called it out plainly. If Shedeur Sanders was a 1st-round pick, he'd already be getting reps with the starters. No question. So what changed? Not much, except everything, because now, every time Sanders suits up in the orange and brown, people aren't seeing a 5th-round flyer anymore. They're seeing what looks like a foundational piece, a franchise guy, one who's building momentum without the benefit of elite teammates or a system crafted around him. This is the NFL's paradox, the same performance viewed differently through the lens of where a player was selected. Top, Tay and pick shows promise? Bright future. 5th-rounder shows promise? Let's wait and see. And that's what's making people snap. Because what Shedeur's doing on the field isn't just promising, it's composed, methodical, and consistent. And consistency from a rookie with limited reps tells you one thing: it's not a fluke. Some fans are already saying it, he's the steal of the draft. But just calling him that isn't enough. A steal only matters if you use it. If you leave a diamond on the bench because it came in a plain box, your team doesn't get credit, it gets scrutiny. Because by week 1, Shedeur won't just be competing with other rookies. He'll be competing with expectations. And right now, he might already be ahead of where most thought he'd be in year 2. Which raises the one question the Browns front office isn't going to be able to dodge for long. If this is what he does as QB3, what could he be as QBone? The more you watch Shedeur Sanders, the more it becomes clear this isn't just about football anymore. It's about something bigger, something deeper. Yes, he's competing for a spot on the Browns' depth chart. But what he's really doing, even if unintentionally, is testing one of the NFL's oldest, most stubborn systems. The mindset that opportunity isn't always earned, sometimes it's inherited. And for a 5th-round pick, that system is brutal. Because you're not just playing against other quarterbacks, you're playing against the politics of the league, the perception tied to your draft slot, and the expectations you were never given permission to exceed. Right now, Shedeur Sanders is pushing against all of that. And that's where the real friction starts. See, in NFL culture, there's an invisible hierarchy. Players taken in the 1st or 2nd round are given trust from day 1. Their mistakes are labeled as growing pains. Their setbacks are part of the process. But for day 3 guys like Shedeur, everything is different. You throw a pick, you're careless. You hesitate, you're not ready. You try to make a play, you're reckless. And even when you perform, it's often dismissed as luck or just preseason. That's what Shedeur's dealing with. But here's the twist. He's checking every single box they told him to check, and still he's being told to wait. Quick decision-making, pocket composure, leadership presence, execution with backups. No off-field distractions. Understanding of protections, progressions, scheme. He's doing everything they ask of young quarterbacks without the benefit of starter reps, superstar receivers, or a tailored offense. And that's what turns his case into something more than just QB versus QB. It turns it into a case study, because the question becomes, what happens when a player has done all the right things, all the right ways, and still isn't getting the same opportunity others would just because his path didn't start at the top? The answer makes a lot of people uncomfortable. And it's why voices like Stephen A. and Dan Orlovsky are so animated. They've seen too many careers stall out not because of talent, but because of timing, politics, and stubborn coaches unwilling to pivot. Shedeur's early success isn't just exciting, it's a threat to the whole wait your turn tradition that's so baked into front offices and coaching staffs. But what makes this more powerful is how Shedeur is handling the situation. He's not going on rants. He's not demanding more reps. He's not subtweeting coaches or feeding rumors to reporters. He's doing something far more dangerous to the system. He's staying quiet and stacking wins. And believe it or not, that's making his case louder. Because when a young quarterback is earning respect inside the locker room while staying totally locked in, players around him start paying attention. They start asking questions behind the scenes. They might not say it to the media, but on the practice field, in the film room, in group text chats, teammates begin to believe in what they're seeing. And belief spreads fast. NFL players aren't blind. When one guy's consistently sharper, more prepared, and more effective, it doesn't matter what round he was drafted in. What matters is who gives you the best chance to win. And when that belief shifts, it finds its way to the top whether the coaches are ready or not. That's what's happening right now in Cleveland. You can feel it building. Shedeur isn't just playing well, he's making people rethink what they thought they knew about rookie timelines, quarterback development, and the true meaning of being NFL ready. The Browns may still be trying to slow play his rise, but the league? It's watching. The fans? They're already sold. And the locker room? It might be shifting every time Sanders walks back into the huddle like he belongs there because maybe, just maybe, he already does. Stefanski isn't just managing a quarterback room anymore. He's managing a movement, and movements don't wait forever. Kevin Stefanski isn't coaching in a vacuum. He knows the cameras are rolling. He knows the locker room is buzzing. He knows every time Shedeur Sanders steps on the field and delivers calm, confident, calculated, the control he once had over the quarterback timeline slips a little further from his grasp. The question is no longer if Shedeur becomes the guy. It's when. And for Stefanski, that's a problem hiding in plain sight. See, on the surface, his approach makes sense. No head coach wants to be the guy who rushed a prospect too quickly and derailed his growth. The NFL has seen plenty of quarterbacks thrown into the fire before they were mentally or physically ready, and those stories don't end well. From the outside looking in, Stefanski is doing what smart football minds preach. Protect the rookie, let the system bring him along. Make sure when it's his time, he stays the guy forever, not for a flash. But here's the catch. Shedeur doesn't look like a quarterback who needs protecting anymore. And that is the problem. Because now, every decision Stefanski makes regarding Shedeur's reps, development, and depth chart standing isn't just being measured inside the building. It's being dissected by a national media blitz, an engaged fan base, and a locker room that's starting to believe Sanders might give them the best shot to win. That's why this situation is more than a developmental timeline. It's turning into a PR battlefield. If Stefanski keeps Sanders on the bench as the season opener creeps closer, every drive from the current starter, every 3 and out, every missed third down, every red zone failure will be viewed through a dangerous lens. Would Shedeur have made that throw? Would Shedeur have led that drive? Are the Browns wasting time? And the worst-case scenario for a head coach? Being seen as the barrier, not the guide to a team's future. Because the longer Shedeur shines from the shadows, the more patience starts to look like resistance. And resistance turns public fast, especially when the team starts losing games it should win. That's what makes quarterback transitions so difficult. Timing is everything. If you jump too soon, you risk overwhelming a young player. But if you wait too long, you miss the moment. Or worse, you lose the locker room. Right now, Shedeur Sanders is stacking moments. Every crisp drive in a preseason game, every tight window throw in practice, every nod he gets from a teammate or coach just adds fuel to the fire that's already burning inside the building. And Kevin Stefanski knows it. He's stuck at a crossroads. Hold the line and stay by the book, or rip that book up and trust what his eyes and most of the football world are telling him. Because the pressure is no longer on Shedeur to prove himself. He already has. Now, the pressure's on Stefanski to act before the opportunity slips away. It's no longer about installing systems, it's about managing momentum. And momentum, once it starts moving, doesn't wait. The Browns still have time, but not much. Because when it comes to quarterback decisions, eventually can turn into too late real fast. And for Stefanski, the window to make the call on his terms is shrinking by the day. Here's the part most fans never see, and yet it might be the biggest reason Shedeur Sanders is on the verge of flipping Cleveland's quarterback depth chart upside down. He's not saying a word. While the media circles, the fans chant his name and analysts call him special. Shedeur has stayed planted head down, eyes forward, totally locked in. No complaints, no cryptic tweets, no offhand comments to reporters, not even a sideline smirk when things go his way, just football. And in a league where noise often comes before performance, Shedeur's silence is deafening in the best possible way. Every preseason, there's a crop of young players who talk a good game. They want more reps, more attention, more headlines. You see it every year. Instagram quotes, locker room sound bites, thinly veiled shots at coaches or other players. But Shedeur, he's doing the opposite. He's letting his film speak, letting his poise speak, letting his teammates speak for him. And that quiet confidence is becoming impossible to ignore. It's what Dan Orlovsky was referring to when he called Shedeur years ahead of where most rookies are mentally. He wasn't just talking about the playbook, he was talking about presence. Veteran-like presence. When a rookie enters the huddle and functions like he's been there forever, steady cadence, instant command, zero panic, that's not normal. That's rare. And it earns respect the way highlight throws never could. Because in the NFL, teammates don't care about college hype. They don't care what round you were drafted in. They care about one thing. Can you lead us? And Shedeur is answering that question quietly, but convincingly, every single day. He's not trying to be the loudest guy in the room. He's trying to be the most prepared. Every meeting, every rep, every 2-minute drill. And that level of professionalism coming from a player just months removed from college has veterans around him raising eyebrows. You want to know why this matters? Because in every NFL locker room, there comes a moment when players, not coaches, start making up their minds about who they trust, about who gives them the best shot to win, about who should really be on that field. And when belief spreads from player to player, that's when everything changes. You can't fake that kind of respect. You earn it brick by brick, with everything except words. And Shedeur? He's laying bricks daily. Even in post-game interviews, when reporters have tossed him softballs to stir controversy questions like, "Do you think you deserve a shot at the starting job?" Shedeur hasn't taken the bait. "I just focus on controlling what I can control. I'm learning from every rep. My job is to stay ready. Players speak? Maybe. But there's a composure underneath it that speaks volumes. A calm understanding that he doesn't need to force this story, because the story is unfolding by itself. And the Browns coaching staff? They can see it too. Stefanski may be playing the public game, preaching patience, emphasizing development, but behind closed doors, there's no doubt the staff is watching how the team itself is reacting. Watching who the linemen rally behind. Watching which quarterback the third-string receivers suddenly look sharper with. Watching which guy walks into drills like this isn't a trial, it's a job interview he's already won. That's what makes Shedeur dangerous in the best way. Because he's not campaigning for a promotion. He's already leading like the position is his. For a coaching staff trying to slow play his rise, that's a nightmare scenario because you can't coach natural leadership. You can't bottle poise. You can't teach 22-year-old rookies how to not chase attention in a world obsessed with it. The guy the Browns drafted in the 5th round is acting like a franchise quarterback before they're even sure they want to name him QB2. And that gap between how Shedeur is viewed by the world and how he's still being handled inside the building is tightrope thin. Eventually, someone's going to ask the question out loud in the locker room, in the press conference, or maybe on game day. If he's already leading like it's his team, why isn't it his team yet? On paper, it's just preseason. That's usually where the excuses come in. He's playing against backups. It's vanilla schemes. None of these snaps really count. But here's the problem with using that reasoning on Shedeur Sanders. Even within the limited, low-stakes nature of preseason football, he looks too real to ignore. Yes, he's been working behind second and third string offensive lines. Yes, he's throwing to receivers who might not be in the building next month. And yes, the playbook is stripped down, simplified, and watered down for evaluation purposes. But none of that seems to matter, because even in those circumstances, Shedeur isn't just holding his own, he's consistently moving the ball, commanding the huddle, and avoiding the types of mistakes that most rookies make when trying to force a breakout. Let's be real, preseason tape doesn't lie if you know what you're looking for. Watch Shedeur's pocket presence. He's not bailing at the first sign of trouble. He's sliding, resetting, reading eyes downfield, footwork clean, clock in his head fully calibrated. These are the things that separate flash from foundation. Even better, his anticipation. He's throwing guys open, not waiting for separation, but trusting timing, routes, and windows the way seasoned NFL starters do. That trait doesn't magically appear in week 10 of a rookie season. That's ingrained, practiced, and most of all, rare. And it's not just fans noticing. In a recent segment, Adam Schefter put it clearly. If he's doing this with the 3s and 4s, what happens when you give him the 1s? What happens when you give him Amari Cooper? What happens when he has actual protection? That's the question everyone's starting to ask, and it's a fair one. Because the gap hasn't just closed between Shedeur and the guys ahead of him on the depth chart. In some ways, it feels like he's outpacing them entirely without ever getting the chance to line up behind the real firepower. That's what's making this debate pick up steam. This isn't about Shedeur posting flashy stats in paint-by-numbers garbage time. This is about quarterbacks operating under pressure, in chaos, with limited support and showing that they still have control of the offense. It's the unspoken test every NFL coaching staff watches closely. Can you stay calm when the protection breaks down? Can you execute when the receivers aren't open by 3 steps? Can you still lead a touchdown drive when the pieces around you are barely hanging on? Shedeur has answered that every single time with composure, smart decisions, and rare efficiency. And that's the kind of performance that does matter in preseason because it separates true system-ready players from guys simply capitalizing on soft coverages or broken plays. So when you hear someone dismiss what Shedeur's doing as just preseason, ask yourself this. How many rookie QBs in recent memory have made their teammates better in these conditions? How many have avoided turnovers, driven scoring drives, and looked like a pro with a scout team offense? Not many. That's the real story hiding under the stat line. Not that Shedeur is lighting up the scoreboard, but that he's doing everything you'd want from a franchise QB in a test run with spare parts. Because if you can find rhythm with the depth chart players, identify pressure pre-snap, and stay efficient when nothing around you is custom built for your success, imagine what happens when the game plan is. Imagine what happens when it's first-team wideouts, elite pass protection, and a headset in his helmet built for his flow, not somebody else's. This is what analysts mean when they talk about projectable traits. Shedeur doesn't just look good for a rookie, he looks good for an NFL quarterback, period. And that's why the spotlight isn't fading. If anything, it's about to get blinding. Every day Shedeur Sanders walks into practice, it feels less like a quarterback battle, and more like a ticking clock. Not in the future. Not weeks away. Now. Because ready or not, the preseason whispers surrounding Shedeur have morphed into something far bigger, a pressure wave that's swallowing the entire Browns organization. Every snap he takes, every clean read, every effortless throw, fans start watching the starter like a placeholder, not the guy. The timeline isn't theoretical anymore, it's accelerating. From the beginning, the Browns framed this as a development year, get Shedeur in the system, let him learn behind the scenes, and down the line, maybe revisit the depth chart. But in between that quiet plan and the reality unfolding in front of us, something happened. He passed the eye test, not just for fans looking for hope, for media, for teammates. And now, maybe for some inside the building. And that changes everything, because the NFL is brutal when it comes to timing. You don't always get to choose when the future shows up. Sometimes it just kicks down the door and plants its flag whether you're ready or not. And right now, that flag's got Shedeur Sanders' name on it. This isn't a what-if story anymore, it's a why not. Why not give him first-team reps? Why not see what happens when he plays with real weapons? Why not let your most promising quarterback take a real test drive? Let's be honest, the current starter is serviceable. He's steady, safe, familiar, but he's not untouchable. He's not lighting up practices. And he sure isn't quieting the noise. Add in 1 or 2 slow starts to the season, and that steady hand could turn into dead weight real quick. Because once regular season losses start piling up, and they always come early somewhere, you don't have the luxury of patience, especially not when the solution might already be in uniform. That's what makes this countdown so dangerous. It's not about whether Shedeur is perfect, no rookie is. It's about whether waiting starts to look more like hesitating. And when players feel that, it spreads. Because anyone who's ever played in an NFL locker room will tell you the team knows. Before the reporters, before the fans, before the front office, players see it first. They see the ball placement in drills. They hear the play calls in the huddle. They notice when a guy walks onto the field and somehow, everyone gets sharper, more focused, more confident. And if enough of them start to believe Shedeur gives them the best chance to win, that's it. The dam breaks. And suddenly, every moment he isn't playing becomes a liability. Every loss becomes a missed opportunity. Every hesitation becomes a reason to question leadership. This is why so many analysts from Stephen A. to Dan Orlovsky to Adam Schefter have stopped asking if Shedeur starts. They're watching for when. And if you're Kevin Stansky, that clock just got a lot louder. Here's the grim truth. The longer you wait to elevate a lightning rod like this, the less control you have over the narrative. Once enough fans, players, and media push for it, you're either ahead of it or swallowed by it. Right now, the Browns still have a choice. Start Shedeur on their terms, give him a curated role, limited packages, see how he blends with the starters. Or wait until a midseason slump forces your hand and risk shifting from a proactive franchise to a reactive one. The first path builds momentum, the second one bleeds it out. And in a tight AFC where every game counts, those decisions don't just shape seasons. They shape front offices, coaching careers, and entire team cultures. So what's the call? Because Shedeur Sanders no longer looks like a backup developing in silence, he looks like a starter waiting for someone to stop pretending he's not one. The clock's ticking, and the Browns are almost out of time to make this decision feel like a strategy instead of a scramble. There's something about this Shedeur Sanders story that goes beyond stats, schemes, and depth charts. You can feel it. It's in the tension during every Browns practice. It's in the silence when coaches dodge questions about the reps he's earned. It's in the electricity when he touches the ball, even in meaningless quarters against backups. You can't fake this kind of momentum. What's unfolding in Cleveland isn't just a quarterback quietly rising. It's a franchise trying to figure out whether they're witnessing a future they expected or one they're completely unprepared for. Because here's the real, unspoken truth. Everyone in that building already knows. Shedeur Sanders has made this a decision. Browns fans didn't expect a fifth-round quarterback to create a spark like this so soon. Coach didn't plan for depth chart drama before week 1. Front office execs didn't sit in their draft war rooms thinking they'd be questioning their timeline before preseason even ended. But they are now. Why? Because despite everything working against him, limited reps, no first-team chemistry, a stripped-down offense, Shedeur keeps doing things that shouldn't look this easy for a rookie, much less a rookie without the franchise tag label stamped on his forehead. And the deeper you look, the more obvious it becomes. This isn't a fluke. Great throw after great throw. In-game adjustments, advanced reads, command in the huddle, emotional control, pocket awareness, internal toughness disguised as calm focus. He's stacking all of it week after week, practice after practice. And still, he waits. That's the part that's becoming harder to explain. Because if this was a first-round QB, the whole city would be screaming for him to start by now. If Shedeur's name came with 5 more draft spots attached to it, the Browns would already be building the offense around his strengths. Instead, everyone's dancing around the obvious. They're watching a rookie win without a scheme designed for him, without star playmakers, and without NFL favoritism, and somehow, they're trying to treat it like some kind of pleasant surprise. It's not. It's a warning. Because in the NFL, when a player starts outplaying his role but gets held back by structure, that structure cracks, internally, publicly, and quickly. And here's the other truth few coaches want to admit. If you wait too long to give a young quarterback his moment, you might never get it back. You risk losing the momentum. Sure, but worse, you risk losing the locker room. Veteran players don't care who was drafted where. They care about who moves the chains, who keeps them in games, who looks ready when things start to break down, and they need one guy they can trust. Right now, Shedeur is earning that trust in real time. And it's not just the locker room watching. The media sees it. Fans absolutely feel it. And rival teams? They're not sleeping on it either. There's already quiet talk around the league. Yo, do the Browns know what they have? Because scouting departments across the NFL are picking up the same tape analysts in Cleveland are watching and asking, how did this guy fall to the fifth? And why hasn't he moved up the chart yet? It's the kind of buzz you can't control, just like the trajectory of a quarterback once he catches fire. You can try to contain it briefly. You can point to experience, playbook patience, or roster politics. But eventually, the game forces your hand. Because that's how these stories play out. Never linear, rarely clean. It goes from momentum, to media pressure, to locker room whispers, to game-changing decisions. And that's exactly where we are now. The wait-and-see window is closing. The just give him a package or two phase is almost over. Very soon, this franchise will have to choose. Do they lean into this moment while they still control the narrative? Or do they get overtaken by it once the season starts, and things fall into the typical Cleveland grind? Because if the losses pile up and if Shedeur's still holding a clipboard when he's clearly ready to contribute, the questions won't just come from ESPN. They'll come from inside, outside, everywhere. And worst of all, they'll come from themselves. From general managers wondering why they blinked. From veterans asking why their best quarterback wasn't on the field. From coaches realizing they listened to the playbook instead of the players. That's the weight of this moment. Not the hype, not the potential, but the cost of missing it. We don't know yet how this ends. Maybe Stefanski brings him in slow. Maybe he waits for the perfect time to let Shedeur run with the ones. Or maybe the decision gets made for him by pressure, by performance, or by a quarterback who's already shown more than enough. The Browns thought they had time. But Shedeur Sanders? He's changing that timeline with every snap.